Welcome to Ranger Stories. My name is Tennyson E. Stead. I'm the creator of Jump Rangers, and this is the show where I read things that I'm writing in the Jump Rangers universe and probably edit and discuss them for your viewing pleasure. Today we're reading Jump Rangers, a Game Called Conquest, Chapter 2. Her name was Melinda Nova. The engineer, I mean. Her name was Melinda Nova. When the Sarge and I got back to our hiding spot between the walls of the Vitriol's waste disposal airlock, we found Melinda Nova sleeping in a hammock we'd rigged up between some power conduits. Waking her up, I asked her if she thought we could figure out a way to build some kind of miniaturization technology into our jumpsuits. Of course, she said. With proper study and peer review, we could certainly start working on a prototype. Once we get to the university, I could ask about early admissions on your behalf, and that's where I stopped her. This wasn't about me wanting to spend the next 20 years of my life doing lab experiments. I want to know what was running around the bowels of the mothership Vitriol. I want to climb in there and check it out. Me too, said the Sarge. Well, I explained my need to miniaturize myself sometime in the next week or so. In the very near future. While I explained my urgent need to miniaturize myself as soon as possible. There we go. I like that better. While I explained my urgent need to miniaturize myself as soon as possible, she stood there gaping at me like I was telling her planet Earth was safe from the Saurians. She stood there gaping like only an old person can. Look, respecting our elders isn't part of the Ranger Code, but it's something I try very hard to do regardless. Demanding respect without giving it may be good enough for some Rangers, but it's not my style. Still, this woman was trying my patience. Both the Sarge and I have octonators, right? Finding power for a rig like this is not going to be a problem for us. Finding parts shouldn't be a problem either, because we're surrounded by alien tech. Personally, I'm always scrounging and scavenging for parts. In my pack, I've got a whole collection of stuff that I haven't figured out what to do with yet. Are you telling me that Melinda Nova doesn't have a bunch of weird parts packed away in her stuff? This woman is going halfway across the known galaxy just so she can take apart Illum technology, and you're telling me she doesn't have... Before we go any further, do you know where Junk University is? Do you know what they're about? Most people think that the Loom are a civilization of giant alien robots, fighting the Saurian horde for control of the galaxy. No, they're not. Loom are energy beings who live inside the giant robots. Jotun are what we call the robots the Loom use for fighting Saurians, but they have all kinds of other robots too. Plus, they've got whole fleets of artificially intelligent drone robots, but a lot of the labor in Loom civilization gets handled by Loom-controlled machines. Why? What's the point of having whole armies of robot slaves if they're not doing your work for you? We don't know. In many ways, the Loom are a mystery. Deep in Loom space, there's a place we call Planet Clearance. For eons, the Loom have been dumping used and broken tech there. Motherships, Jotun, and everything you can think of. Nobody knows why they do this. But it's been going on so long that the whole planet is covered in old Loom junk. Some lady named the Professor runs a college that someone built into the hull of an old Loom mothership way back when, where they study all the Loom tech they can find and try to figure out how things work. Me, I've been to Junk University once before. Getting there meant climbing deep enough into the cavernous junkyard. That's what they call the layer of abandoned tech that makes up the surface of Planet Clearance, to where you couldn't see the light of day. Well, I've never been all the way down and touched dirt, the actual ground of Planet Clearance. I do know the colony at Junk University isn't very far from the surface of the junkyard. Like I said, the Loom have been dumping junk there for a very long time. So, if a lady is crossing half the galaxy to spend the rest of her life on an alien junk planet, or even just a few years of it, just so she can learn to take things apart, is it too much to ask that she shows some blasted initiative when it comes to science projects? Why does she got to be a Putnam? Look, here we've got some primers I took from some disruptors the Undersource threw out in the trash. Here's a few mass compensators. Don't ask me where I got those. Here's a bunch of octanator relays I swiped from the last colony we were at. All you really need is some way to collapse the subatomic field. See? Now I had Melinda's attention. If we can design some way to regulate the subatomic field, we collapse the space between particles. Even inside a solid object like a person, matter is mostly made of empty space. Theoretically, it should be easy to make a person so small that you can't see them with the naked eye. Make them any smaller than that, and see here I've got a little problem. Hang on one sec. Make them any smaller than that, you get jammed up on molecular bonds, but that's a problem you can solve with proper experimentation and peer review. Wink. Once again, Melinda was staring at me with her mouth open. Listen, lady, I'm with the tech corps. This is what we do. Keep up or keep out. Even if we figured this out, even if we can design a prototype, how are you going to print what you need? Goat smiled. The undersaurs have printers too. Goat smiled. The undersaurs have printers too. What did I tell you? The Sarge always has my back. When we picked Melinda up on Cinder, this was going to be the most boring. When we picked Melinda up on Planet Cinder, let's fix this a little bit. When we picked Melinda up on Planet Cinder, this was going to be the most normal, boring mission ever. Now it was getting kind of fun. See? Okay. I think that whole paragraph sucks. We're just going to delete it. So Melinda and I ate snacks and solved math problems while the Sarge figured out how to use the tech printers on the vitriol. Once the prototype was designed, the Sarge and I rolled one of the undersore workshops on the mothership while the crew was in their sleep cycle. Using alien tech is never safe or smart, but exterminators aren't usually all that bright. We figured we could probably get away with it. Don't get me wrong, undersaurs are just as smart as people. Rexors may be the fearsome, telepathic overlords of the Saurian horde, but undersaurs keep the Empire running. If you've never seen one up close, they look like a Rexor that got genetically crossed with a very big man. Less Tyrannosaurus Rex and more Velociraptor, maybe, but with arms and hands that do actually useful things. Why do Rexors have such silly, useless arms? Probably because they never needed them. If you're a vicious telepathic overlord, you're going to get someone else to do your work for you. Basically, that's why they keep the undersaurs around. Exterminating humans and other pests is one of the many jobs that undersaurs do, and it's not the most intellectually challenging or stimulating job an undersaur can get. Exterminators are usually pretty dumb. So when an extermination team came clomping through the blast door to see why the power was on in the workshop, and there's another typo that we're going to fix real quick. The Sarge and I just climbed into the meat cooler and hid. Why is there a meat cooler in an undersaur workshop? Undersaurs like meat. It's a cultural thing. Firecrackers drawn, we waited to see if they'd find something wrong. Our gear was printing right there in plain sight. Plus, undersaurs have a very keen sense of smell. You don't need to be smart to smell a kid. If we'd been eating from our food packs, we'd smell a whole lot more like the inside of a Saurian mothership. But the Sarge and I had insisted on grabbing snacks on Planet Cinder. Hiding in the cooler turned out to be the smart choice. If they did smell us, they must have figured us for snacks. For snacks ourselves. Losing interest, the exterminators left the workshop to finish their rounds. Once my prototypes were finished printing, the Sarge and I were rooking through the air vents on our way back to Melinda. Once she saw us installing the shrink kit, Once she saw the mini kit, micro kit, what do you call shrinking gear? Microtech? Tech? Rig? Micro rig? Wrench rig. You call it a wrench rig. Oh, did I not introduce myself? Lieutenant Major Wrench, Techno Corps. When you make something outstanding, you put your name on it. Once Melinda saw the wrench rig, she wanted to take it for a test drive. She wanted to get in on the mission. Some grown-ups try to throw their weight around when they ask a ranger for something they know they can't have. But Melinda Nova was sweet about it. Let's see. Now we're just going to eliminate the but. Some grown-ups try to throw their weight around when they ask a ranger for something they know they can't have. Melinda Nova was sweet about it. Her pitch was all, I know you're here to protect me, but... and all kinds of other well-meaning things that grown-ups say when they want to play at being a jump ranger. This isn't a game, Melinda. Stick your butt in that hammock and keep it there, because that's the safest place for you. Leave the exploration to the rangers. Let us do our job, Professor. Into the vents, back to the maintenance room, and into the access hatch. The sergeant and I made our way back through the tangle of conduits and piping that powers the mothership. When we finally climbed deep enough into the innards of the mothership that there was no way forward through the thicket of alien technology, we activated our wrench rigs and shrunk ourselves down, shoulder high to a rat. We should have no problem climbing down through the mothership's octanator. Checking my scanner. Wrenchoscope. Let's call it a wrenchoscope. Checking my wrenchoscope, I made sure that the life readings were still down there. Sure enough, something was alive and running around near the mothership's core life support systems. Being so close to the octanator, I can see why they were hard to detect. Firing our grapplers, we hook ourselves on an overhead conduit and start winching ourselves down into the core of the mothership. And that's Chapter 2 of A Game Called Conquest. Thank you for being patient with the adjustments that I made along the way. These are pretty quick little streams, I'm noticing. And if there's people here chatting, obviously, we're going to take a little extra time and answer questions and discuss the world building and the lore of Jump Rangers. The other thing that has occurred to me, and I know I talked about it last week, I want to write a weekly one-shot for the gameplay, for the tabletop role-playing game. And that's a decent amount of work, and I've been trying to think of how to make this doable and feasible in my schedule. And it occurred to me that if I actually just write it on stream and talk with people, it becomes more interactive, it becomes more fun. We can kind of brainstorm these in real time. And I think rather than try and run more than one game a week, what would be smart of me is to write this game on stream and let other people run it. And I'm thinking maybe I should do that Thursday nights. Not this Thursday. I need to take some time and set it up, and this is a busy week for me. But as soon as possible, I'd like to get this started. So if you have any thoughts about me sitting down once a week and challenging myself to come up with a completely new adventure, one shot, that people can run for themselves, type it up, print it out, put it on the Patreon for people to download. I would love your feedback. Let me know what you think. I think it would be fun. I am also on my personal Twitch, which is Tekker10, Tekkerten. I'm streaming a lot of Jump Rangers. Not Jump Rangers. I'm streaming a lot of Star Citizen. So if you want to watch me play video games, you should follow me at twitch.tv/Tekker10. And there's more content coming. We'll get this thing going. I'm going to call it the Mission Files, Code Purple. And I'm also going to be running this game with Federico Estevao, who is the concept designer for Jump Rangers and the artistic director in the relatively near future. So let me know what you think about that. Let me know if you have any questions. You can always find me and contact me on the Patreon. You can respond here on Twitch, and there's a link tree. Click the link tree. You can find me where you're at. There's a Discord. I definitely recommend joining the Discord. That's a great place for conversations. I am at your service. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week for more Ranger stories. Take care. Have a great week.